With podcasts becoming way more prevalent nowadays, you see everybody doing a podcast, and now you want to do a podcast. You see YouTubers and podcasters spending thousands of dollars on their setups. With the introduction of new gear and more economic friendly gear, what if I told you you could get just as good as a podcast setup for about $500? Well, let's check it out. Let's get right into it. Alright, let's start off with the basics. What do you need to start a podcast with? Well, first of all, you're going to need an audio recorder. Something that's going to capture the audio, something that you're literally going to record it with. You need a cable going to the microphone, and then, well, you just need the microphone. The whole point of starting this podcast is to go from an audio quality that sounds like this to something that sounds a lot more like this. Obviously, better audio quality, something more engaging into the audience, not as much background noise, and, well, that's most of it. The Zoom PodTrak P4 is Zoom's addition to the podcasting market. Normally, Zoom's audio recorders have a microphone on the top of it. Zoom said, why not just cut all of that out, make it straight up for podcasting? So here's the first part of the setup, the audio recorder. You may be thinking, oh, an audio recorder, I could just buy a cheap one. Well, you could, but let me tell you the great things about this one. First of all, XLR inputs. This one has 4 of them. Benefits of an XLR input versus using something like your headphones or just a regular old microphone is the balanced audio. XLRs deliver much more cleaner sound. It also helps against electrical currents that may interfere with your audio. The Zoom PodTrak offers 4 XLR inputs for up to 4 microphones. Not only that, it does actually come with a 3.5mm jack. That way you could actually plug in something like a regular old microphone, something like a lavalier microphone, or literally your cell phone. Weird, right? Each XLR input comes with its own gain control, so you can basically adjust the audio levels of each microphone. If I turn it down, I'm gonna sound a lot quieter. If I turn it up, well, I might get just a little bit too loud, you know? Not only that, the PodTrak allows you to mute any XLR input. Say you're about to sneeze. You couldn't hear me just then, could you? Huh? Think about that. The PodTrak does take 2 AA batteries. However, they thought of something, well, kind of genius. This has a USB Type-C input, which means you don't need to have it just run on batteries. It can run on Type-C while you're using it. That's innovation. Thank you, Zoom, for that. In the past, it was just batteries, and if your battery runs out, you're kind of screwed. So you can leave this running as long as you want. That's actually insane. As you can see here, I have 2 microphones. I don't want to have them both on because that could cause interference, and that's just not a good look, you know? And you may be thinking, what microphones are you using? Well, I'm using the Rode PodMics. Zoom actually has their own podcasting microphones, or at least microphones that are sort of meant for it. They're about $100. They're about the same price as the Rode PodMic. The reason I picked up these is the feedback from when actually touching the microphone. Looking at reviews, the Zoom ZDM1 microphone did have a lot of feedback when touching the microphone. The Rode PodMic? Next to none. Versus the Zoom ZDM1 had a lot of issues with that. This is obviously a 2-person setup for $500. Each microphone costed about $100, so both of them came out to about $200. Each cable cost me $7, 2 of those came out to about $15. The Zoom PodTrak P4 came to $200, which all of this together, it's a pretty good deal. I actually started a podcast about a week ago with my friend Wale. Here's a little clip from it. So, Wale, do you like saving money?
Yeah. I do.
Do you like photography, videography, and audio equipment?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, if you go to newer.com and use code Eddy, you get 15% off your entire order. That's 15%. You got $100? $100 order? $300. Knock off 15%. Imagine that. You can get photo, audio, and video gear for the best price available on the market. I've used Newer for a couple of months now. Almost a year. Love them so far. So, yeah, guys, check out newer.com. Use the code Eddy for 15% off at checkout. Links in the description. Doesn't sound half bad. Obviously, in some instances, it sounds a little bit far away. With the Rode PodMics and a lot of other cardioid microphones, you really have to get close to it. If I'm over here, it's not going to sound that great. But if I'm right here, sounds, well, a lot better. The Rode PodMic does not peak a lot. If I really try to whisper, sounds pretty good. good. But if I get really loud, it doesn't peak as much. The Rode PodMic has an internal pop filter. So if I go Peter Piper, I'm sorry, I didn't need to do it. So if I'm doing a lot of spitting or biting, then it doesn't sound enough bad, to be honest. Let me get out my chair real quick and actually show you the setup. Alrighty, here is the setup. One thing I did not mention is you have to have a stand for your microphones. These are the Amazon Basics microphone stand. This is what completes the $500. These were roughly $20 each. Two of them, about $40. One thing I love about these is it comes with a clip for you to actually put your microphone in. Thankfully, the Amazon Basics cables came with a little Velcro strap, so nothing to worry about here. The microphone stands will need a weight on them. Right now I have literally a dumbbell weight on here. That way it holds the Rode PodMic fine. And then I have Mountain Dew. Don't ask. As I'm doing the podcast, I can check in, make sure everything's recording, literally lean in. Temporarily, I am using a couch for the setup. In the future, I will change it. But right now, it's what I got. Obviously, the aesthetic that you want to have in the background is up to you. Personally, I have my photo fam art, and then I have art that I made with the Raw 2 Cents podcast. I mean, look at that. Raw 2 Cents and then the microphone's the scent. I mean, that's kind of brazy, you know? That's kind of cool. I have my artwork in the back if I really want to show it. If this is just an audio podcast, then you obviously do not need all of this. Personally, I have a whole setup going on. This is completely up to you. As I am a photographer, videographer, I am going to want video. Obviously, it's not completely needed. One thing I want to mention, if you want to plug in headphones into the PodTrak, you can do so. I recommend getting a 6-foot cable or longer depending on what kind of podcast you're doing. As I do more with videography, obviously I am getting more into audio, which means when I do export the audio, eventually it will be as perfect as I want. I'm not an audio engineer, so I recommend looking up the best audio settings for what you want. Now that I'm done with the audio portion, let's get into the video, because this is, well, it's a little bit different. Alrighty, now to the video portion of the podcasting side. Obviously, we all love our cameras. We love our DSLR, mirrorless cameras, but there is one huge drawback to them, and that is, well, they can't record for over 30 minutes. Obviously, that's only on DSLRs, mirrorless cameras. If you have a phone with decent video quality and enough video storage, well, go ahead and use it. Personally, I want my podcast to be a little bit higher quality than my phone, so I'm going to use my mirrorless camera. But unfortunately, it can't record more than 30 minutes, so I had to find a loophole. And turned out pretty good. The thing I found was the Elgato Cam Link. Plug this into my computer, send a wire to that to my camera, and screen record the camera. Alrighty, here I am in OBS. This is what it looks like. OBS is a free video recording software for the computer. Obviously, on your Cam Link, a light would have popped up indicating that it is connected. I'm gonna go ahead and add a scene. A scene is basically what you are going to be seeing on your actual display. And by display, I mean your monitor, whatever you're recording, basically. So let's call this podcast. You're going to add a video capture device. That is going to be something like the Elgato. So I already have it, but I'm going to call it something different. Elgato. So I'm going to call it Elgato for podcast. I'm gonna hit OK, and boom, this is the Camlink 4K. Now that my Elgato is set up, I'm going to turn off the audio source from the Elgato since I'm using a microphone from here. I highly recommend setting up a microphone while you're recording your podcast. That way the audio is easier to sync. Because if you're trying to put audio on top of lips just moving, it's not the easiest thing to do. If you're wondering why the colors look flat right now, it is because I'm recording on C-Log, a flat format used by Canon in their cameras. I highly recommend setting your settings in manual on the camera and then leaving it alone, especially in a closed environment. That way you get the best possible shot and you're not color grading on a flat format. Since it is a screen recording, that's going to be extremely difficult to do. Now that I'm here, let me show you what the podcast basically looks like. All right, obviously the camera is a tiny bit crooked, but don't worry about that. From here, you can record your camera, your screen, and you're pretty much set. You're pretty much good to go. In whatever video editing software you use, stack both the video and the audio layer to get the best possible result. And that's pretty much it for today. Bet. Alrighty guys, that is pretty much it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions or concerns, drop them in the comments below. I will get back to you as fast as possible. This is obviously my setup. This is the best setup I could possibly make with the budget that I had. There are a lot of different types of microphones out there. The Rode PodMic just did it for me and it was in the budget, so I definitely had to pick it up. Rode is a company I've been using for a long time and very trustworthy to me, so had to support the family, you know, the photo fam, you know. They're a photo fam. If you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget to drop a like and comment letting me know what you want me to do next. If you want to see individual reviews of the Rode PodMic and the Zoom PodTrak, let me know. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so subscribe now to become a part of the photo fam. I appreciate every single one of y'all. I will catch you guys in the next video, whenever that is. Take it easy, guys, and peace. Bye-bye.